All right, welcome back. Talk of the Town here on Thursday. Good to have you back. And we've been talking about the great event last night here in Greenville with Senator Rand Paul in for a fundraiser and big event for Congressman Walter Jones. And look who I have here in the studio, both Rand Paul and Walter Jones, both in our studio this morning. Good to have you both. Welcome to Greenville, Senator.
Glad to be here. You know, I love being back in North Carolina. I spent 7 years over in Durham, and it's great to be here.
Yeah, we're going to talk about your Durham years. Congressman, how are you? Big crowd out last night, a lot of fun?
Absolutely, Henry, and I want to thank Senator Paul and his family for the support they've given me through the years, and it was a great success. Thank you.
Yeah, and of course we had your father, Ron Paul, here. How many years ago was that, Congressman?
About 3 years ago.
3 years ago, and that was a lot of fun. And last night was a great honor to have you here as well. Now, we were talking about your North Carolina days. You actually went to Duke. And we were talking about that. You had a good run while you were at Duke, and did you undergrad there?
No, I did 4 years of medical school in the 80s and then 3 years of residency. And I was wondering, everybody does like Coach K, right? I mean, in Greenville, does everybody love Coach K?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah. Well, you've been in North Carolina. You know how that goes. It's a very polarizing question, you know.
And, as a graduate student, we always wanted to go to the basketball games. But I was there 7 years, and I think I saw about 7 games. But you had to work to get tickets. It wasn't easy to get tickets because most of the tickets go to the undergrads. And so the grad students have to kind of get in a lottery or know somebody.
Yeah. Well, I'm just happy. Yeah, I know you grew up in Texas. I'm just happy to dispel the rumor that all of the Duke students are from New Jersey.
Yeah, I didn't know this was going to be a Duke bashing thing. I would never come on this show.
Hey, look, we don't talk. We talk football on this side of the state anyway. So, here, one more basketball thing. Are you aware that Congressman Jones
Don't go there, Henry.
was quite a basketball player himself? He played at NC State, and I believe that there's a photograph, if it's still there, in the office there in Washington D.C. in the Congressman's office of him with his Wilmington. I think it was Wilmington College at the time.
Now it was a junior college at the time. That's how long ago it was.
But Congressman Jones could ball now. I'm just telling you.
I'm sort of imagining in my mind Congressman Jones playing against Coach K.
It was so long ago that I've got the autograph of the first president when I was at junior college, and it was George Washington, by the way.
I'm not buying it. Well, it's great to have you here. There's so much going on in the country. It's good to be able to laugh a little bit. Congressman Jones is on the show with me quite often, but let me throw some issues at you. We've got quite a mess right now. Our foreign policy looks to be in shambles, if you ask me. You guys have to deal with this on a day-to-day basis, and I know you've been one of the biggest critics in the country of the way President Obama's handled a lot of these things. Give us your feel right now for where we are and how he's handled this ISIS crisis.
I think one of the things, if you're looking for truth and you're trying to figure out sort of messy situations, and the Middle East is about as messy as it comes, sometimes it's difficult to tell friend from foe and whether giving weapons to the right people. But one thing I think you can tell that I think is universally true over the last 2 decades is that every time we've gotten involved or someone else has gotten involved to topple a secular dictator, that they've been replaced by chaos, the rise of radical Islam, and actually we're more threatened. I'll give you an example. Libya. The president got involved unconstitutionally without congressional authority. We toppled Gaddafi, a secular dictator. We've got chaos over there now. There are jihadists in our swimming pool, in our embassy swimming pool. I'd call it the jihadist wonderland in Libya. I feel less safe now that we've been to war in Libya, and they never ask our permission. I mean, it's supposed to be Congress's role to vote on this, and so I'm offended they don't obey the Constitution. But I think even from a practical point of view, I feel less safe and not more safe.
And Congressman Jones, this week you sent a letter to Speaker of the House, John Boehner, asking for a debate and a vote on the floor. Once again, here we go, military action. Congress is left on the sideline.
Henry, I actually joined back in August, joined Barbara Lee and Jim McGovern and myself wrote John Boehner to allow us to debate in September, Iraq and Syria. And obviously we got no answer. So you're exactly right. Last week I sent a letter to Mr. Boehner, since he's not going to call us back. He wants to blame the president for that, but I blame Boehner for that. He could do it tomorrow if he wanted to. But what I asked in the letter, please during the November time frame, we go back for about 7 to 10 days, allow the House to have a debate. I don't think he will, but I hope he will, because to me, I agree with Senator Paul, there is nothing more important than cast a vote to send a kid to give their life for this country. And when we negate our constitutional authority, I think it's a shame. I really do.
I would just add on to that. One
Yeah.
thing that I think is really appalling about the situation, we had Secretary Kerry come in before our committee, and he said, oh, well, we have authorization to do this from 2001. And I said, when you voted to go to war, when we voted to go to war in Afghanistan, that has nothing to do with this. And one generation can't bind another generation to war. And he said, well, then we have the 2002 authorization. I said, well, neither one of those had anything to do with this situation.
Well, totally different.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so then he said, well, oh no, well, we just have Article 2 from the Constitution. We can do whatever we want, whether there's any use or not. And it's like, well, you're just saying basically you don't really believe in any kind of rule of law then.
Yeah.
And I think we should have a vote on it, and there's a real debate to be had. And in our side, we never even voted at all. At least on the House side, they had 2 different votes on arming the rebels. We had no vote. They stuck it in a 2,000-page spending bill, and we had no debate over whether or not to arm these rebels, these so-called moderate rebels in Syria.
Senator Rand Paul, Congressman Walter Jones in the studio. Everybody's assuming you're going to be a presidential candidate. I'll ask you that question in a minute, and you won't give me an answer, but I'll ask it anyway. But you are traveling around the country right now, and your name is one of the top names from the Republican Party. A lot of people want to see you run for president. But before we talk about that race in 2016, tell me what you're hearing from people. I know you were in South Carolina this week. Spent some time campaigning for Tom Tillis here in North Carolina this week as well. He's got a very difficult race with Kay Hagan that looks like it's going to go neck and neck. What are you hearing from people across the country? What's on the minds of people as we approach this midterm election?
You know, I think most people were disappointed that the president promised he was going to give us health care reform, but you'd still get to keep your doctor. People don't like dishonesty. They don't like to be promised one thing and then find out he wasn't telling the truth. My wife will often say this, we all got free health care now. We've got diet counseling, but we can't choose if we get sick where we want to go. If we get cancer, we can't choose to go to a great medical center like Duke Medical Center. We're
or Vidant Medical Center here in Greenville.
Yeah. But our choices are taken away from us. What I hear from kids, and I speak on a lot of college campuses, is they're offended by the fact that the government wants to snoop on their cell phone and what they do on their cell phone without a warrant, without probable cause. And so I think college kids are a natural constituency for anybody who's willing to stand up and say, you know what, I will defend your privacy, I will defend your Fourth Amendment rights, and the government has to have probable cause. They've got to have a warrant before they look at your stuff.
You consider yourself a libertarian. I think everybody, when you say the word libertarian, people think Ron Paul. Should they think Rand Paul?
You know, I tell people I'm libertarian-ish. And I'm a Republican, always been a Republican, always will be a Republican. But I do believe in the ideas of liberty. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in individual freedom. And so some of that is libertarian. I do believe that things like the war on drugs have gone too far. While I don't think drugs are good for anybody, I think we've locked up some of our teenagers for too long. They get out of prison, they can't get another job because they're now a convicted felon. I think we need to have a different approach to this, and it needs to be more, let's try to fix the problem, but let's just don't throw you in prison and lock away kids for a decade or more sometimes. So are those libertarian ideas? Maybe, but I think they're also common sense ideas.
And you've recently also said that the Republican Party needs to reach out to non-traditional people that have been in the Republican Party. I know you've made that comment recently several times that you think the Republican Party, the future of the Republican Party, is in trouble unless we start bringing people who have not traditionally been, people of color, people like that to the table to be part of the Republican Party. Talk about your feelings on that.
Yeah, I traveled to Detroit, and Detroit's a mess. 20% unemployment, 50,000 houses that are abandoned. It's a disaster zone. And I said, what are the Democrats doing to help you? And I actually have a plan. It's called Economic Freedom Zones, where I would dramatically lower the taxes in areas of high poverty, areas of high unemployment. And for Detroit, it would be a $1.3 billion stimulus. Not money that we get from North Carolina and send to Detroit, but just money that originates in Detroit. We would leave it in Detroit, but we would target it towards trying to help people who live in poverty and high unemployment. And I think that's well received. And it's also not only the right thing to do, maybe people in Detroit who haven't been voting for Republicans will say, you know what, Democrats aren't doing anything for Detroit. Here's a Republican who wants to help Detroit. Maybe in the end we see a realignment of voters.
You know, this gentleman sitting to your left is very well loved here in Eastern North Carolina, but not everybody in Washington loves him because he tends to speak out a little bit from time to time, and he gets under people's skin a little bit. But you know, Congressman Jones has some good ideas, and sometimes I feel like people up there aren't listening to him. Can you help him some?
I was hoping he'd help me. You know, I think we have a dearth of truth tellers, and I think Walter Jones is a truth teller, and I think we need more of that up there. And sometimes that rankles people in power, but we got enough people going up there to go along to get along. We need some people who will stand up with an independent voice, and so I think North Carolina's lucky to have Walter Jones.
Thank you.
I agree as well. And how about this guy right here next to you, Congressman? I'll give you a chance to be as nice to him as he was to you.
Well,
I mean, he's being talked about as a presidential candidate. What are your thoughts?
Henry, I will tell you that the Republican Party in America needs someone like Rand Paul. If the Republican Party wants to continue to pick the good old boys to be the candidates, then we will go by the wayside. You need someone that's got ideas, someone that believes that the Constitution should be the guidepost for this country, and a person that will bring excitement to the ticket. And I think at the top of the ticket, Rand Paul is that kind of person.
All right. Well, you know, you could make this announcement on Fox News. That would be boring. You could make it on NBC. You could go on the Today Show. You could have a big. Why don't you just make it right here, right now? Are you running for president? Are you going to be a candidate for president in 2016?
I thought you were going to ask me a hard question, like whether I was supporting. I thought it was going to be, am I supporting Duke or Carolina coming up? You know, so,
we already know the answer to that.
Yeah. You know, we're thinking about it, but we haven't made a final decision this year. And the last year or so, I've made the decision to try to travel the country, see if we can grow the constituencies, new people. I tell people we need people with earrings and without earrings, with long hair, with short hair, tattoos, without tattoos, white, black, brown. We need all kinds of new people in our party. And I think if we're a welcoming party that goes out and says, you know, we'll defend the entire Bill of Rights, I think all kinds of new people will come to our party.
Well, it's great to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and supporting our friend Congressman Walter Jones.
Thank you.
Good to be with you last night. Congressman, nice to have you this morning. Thanks for bringing a big celebrity here. Well, big name. My ratings went up this morning.
Well, they should.
Good to have you, Senator. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a break. We will be back. More Talk of the Town coming up.